Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Marina Stefanova, and I would like to welcome you in the studio of CSR AdviceBox series. During the next several minutes, we will discuss a very interesting and provocative topic, the topic of community contribution and development. Why did I say that I will provoke you? Just because everybody usually thinks he understands everything on community development. Together, we will work on the questions: what is it? How does it look? What does it require? How long does it take? How much does it cost? And of course, does it worth doing something with it? Take a cup of very filthy chocolate, put your headphones on, and let's start. Community involvement and interaction is an integral part of your business. In the beginning, you should realize that there are at least 3 types of communities. Geographical communities share physical space so that residents come into contact with each other by virtue of proximity rather than intent. However, to be a real community, residents must feel a sense of belonging and hold at least some values and symbols in common. Second, community of interest. Their members choose to associate with each on the basis of a common interest, for example, model railway club, or shared concerns, poor air quality. Sometimes communities are formed by self-identified members of a reference group based on the characteristics outside their control: disability, gender, ethnic group. Third, virtual communities. These are groups of people that primarily interact via communication media rather than face-to-face. They are usually the online communities when people carry on chats and public discussions long enough with sufficient human feelings to form a web of personal relationship. Why I am telling all these things? Because you are supposed to draw the borders. Borders that are going to locate and identify your community. You have to think of the places you operate, with the groups you interact, with the suppliers you work or the customers you care, and then you really need to evaluate who you influence and who is influencing you. Think of it and measure it. My favorite practical question: how the perfect contribution to society program looks like. First, you have to be sure to cover all your impacts and reduce as lowest as possible the negative ones, and of course raise all the positive impacts. You have to think creatively and make it through many forms. You can supply from local suppliers, you can create a capacity building program, you can invest in sports, art, community, any kind of community development traditions. You can also think of diversifying your economical activity in order to be able to hire more people, which usually leads to higher employment in the region. Think about retirement or changing jobs after working with you. All these kind of things will help you in order to diversify your contribution policy. Do not forget to pay your taxes. Number 3. You have to put limitations to the objectives, to the time and resource investments that you have. You know that there is always in the business coming, raising, sustaining and exiting strategy. You need to implement it here as well. Nevertheless, it's contribution to society and not business development. It's the same story. Finally, really do not remember that what you have to do is to empower the society to self-sustain at their own. Your ultimate objective is to leave all this community and help them to raise their own development, to follow their own development, finally, without your help. Again, I'm sure you can guess that community contribution and development program is an ongoing process, the same as all your business processes. The Global Community Associations proposes several single steps in order to make your strategy sustainable in the long run and effective in results and outcomes. Step number 1, what you should do. If you really want to see what is the dynamics of your community, you have to go there and look for information. Start reading the local newspapers. Of course, look at the local television or other kind of local resources of information. Go and visit all the events that people are gathering and that are interesting for your community. Read about the successful and unsuccessful stories. Try to find out what is the power structure inside of it and what is the decision-making processes. Every single community has their concerns, their advantages, disadvantages, or the things that they are proud of, like history, culture, sports achievement, etc. Step number 2, listen to the community members. Not everything, of course, is written in the newspapers or you can see it on the web. What you can do is just walk around freely and buy from the local shop or go to a local meeting and engage with some formal or informal activities with a local community. Listen very carefully and maybe you will find not only the information you need, but some areas of common interest that will help you to go to the next stage. The most challenging thing is to bring people together. You have to identify people, or maybe you already did it, but they do not know each other yet, and bring them together, asking them or making them wish to have a shared vision on a concern or an issue or the future development of the community as a whole. You may provide the sources, you may provide the place or some expertise if you need from outside, but what I really advise you to do is during this informal conversation to try and check again your social license to operate on the area. Assess the community needs, resources and restraints. Sometimes you will not have the budget to make it formally, but informally making your desk research, you can be able to identify their main capitals which you can use together in order to achieve this joint objective. Next thing is to help the community members to realize what the problems are. This is a breakthrough moment. If they realize it and say it loudly, then they have the ownership and responsibility to solve it. You have to provide them the tools, the resources and the place, but please do not say it before them even if you know it. Sometimes people from outside are really bigger and faster experts in the situation in the community itself, but it doesn't help. Step number 6. Establish a working group. In the beginning, it may not be a formal group, but only several people who you see as community leaders. They will implement some of the activities, they will monitor the others, follow the results, report to the local community. During the time, I believe that they will be established as a formal union, maybe gathered and taken responsibility by a community organization or becoming part of some existing unity. Develop an action plan. Now it's really easy because you already have the working group. What you have to do is put the time, the money and the human resources, their limitations, put the objectives, long-term, middle-term, short-term, together with the results which you can expect and the KPIs to monitor them. Then it is very important to communicate this plan with the local community beforehand in order for them to understand the whole picture and the process that is going to be ongoing for a certain amount of time. Finally, you have to implement it. Listen and learn more in the following minutes. Again, we are coming to the very tricky questions of how much. Usually this money comes from the CSR budget, which you know is an annual budget. Sometimes you divide them among the instruments, sometimes you really don't have a budget on it. What do you do in these situations? Usually SMEs are really creative and find ways to get themselves into a partnership with other local partners in order to invest much more human resources or capacity building or networking among other SMEs in order to promote the idea or the plan, thus not contributing with pure financial means. In some of the communities, we already see another trend, and this is a definite number of money coming either from percentage of money, coming either from the income, your annual income or your annual profit should be, this is what the legal requirements say, should be focused and spent on CSR activities. Usually these are developing countries where they encourage companies through legal obligations to make a CSR committee or dedicate a CSR position in the management board, finally to have a strategic plan, of course amount of money, and report annually. This is part of their annual reporting to state. Community contribution has a really huge impact on the way how the community accepts you, sees you, and believes in the longevity and prosperity of your company. Besides this, there are several very practical advantages of working together with the local people. The first one is reconciliation and being able to spread your message around. If you work together with people, then they can distribute all the information you want as a channel direct to different target groups in the community. Synergy. When you work together, you usually combine all the efforts, and the ideas, creativity that are coming are really much more than the efforts you invest by yourself. Shared resources. I know that business is always thinking on the effectiveness of their investments. The return of investment here is really very large because what you can see is that everybody is investing what they have, so it's not necessary to pay it all by yourself. Overcome obstacles. What does it mean? This means that if you have problem to access to something like a facility or like a media channel, for example, the other groups that are participating with you in this plan, they can do it by yourself, and then you will be also represented. Access to funds is another important thing, because you know that there are grant schemes that are covering the same constraints and topics that you're urging for. Maybe you will not be applicable for this, but they will be for sure, so you can use them. This is another instrument for not duplicating the public policy, the company policy, and the community policy in order to solve the community needs. Now we have to look at the things from another angle. Once, the Russian character from a very famous novel, Ostap Bender, said, "The task of helping the drowning people is in the hands of the drowning people themselves." What does it mean? This means that you should not impose a solution for the problems you see. This is their job. If they do it, if they identify it, finally work on it, they will have it like their own solution, like their own result. This means that they will protect it, they will keep it for a longer time. If you impose it because you are in a hurry, for example, on something, this means that sooner or later you will face the worst possible exit. Mainly, they will destroy it, forget about it, or just ignore the best practices that you are offering them. Only because of one thing: you were impatient in order to see them grow, evolve, develop, and finally share your vision for their development. The best strategy to act in this situation is to sit quietly, observe, sometimes inspire them, ask them for more, educate them if they accept it, and patiently wait till the moment that they reach the same solution as you offered them from the very beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching CSR AdviceBox series and being with me, Marina Stefanova. If you find this useful, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to receive any information and notification for the upcoming series. If you are urging to watch them all, go to the website and pre-buy them. I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks when we are going to discuss one of the very famous worldwide initiatives, platforms, political and economical platforms for sustainable development and ethical business. Meanwhile, follow our Facebook page to get updated with all CSR news around the globe.